Absolute Knicks streets. We've got a lot to break down, man, as the New York Knicks suffer their third defeat in a row, right? And they're now 5-5 over their last 10. Welcome in to the post-game double recap of the last two nights, man, where the Knicks lost to ATL last night, and it was much of the same story again tonight. Two games where they didn't quit in the end, two fake comebacks, so to speak, but lots to break down, man, and the Knicks are in a rut, man. They are stuck in mud for many reasons. There's a lot of takes and a lot of venting tonight, but you're in the right place, Knicks Nation, because I want to hear your takes. I want to give you my thoughts on what the Knicks need to do, man, to get out of this rut, and what are the main reasons why the New York Knicks are struggling at the moment, man. 5-5 over the last 10 is not good, but obviously there's a lot of factors, man. It ain't just black and white, fam. There's nuance. The New York Knicks are playing, I think they look tired. They're playing softer on defense, right? Obviously, teams are starting to hit threes now. That was a variance that was going to, come back down, I do think. Obviously, swing around because the New York Knicks defense hasn't been great this season, but teams really haven't been making us pay. But obviously, as of late, especially last night, tonight, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and everyone, man, was having a party at MSG. It seems everyone except the New York Knicks, right? Look, there was a lot of swing plays over these last two games, especially tonight. Didn't like the Karl Anthony Towns deep three or the Mikal Bridges pull up again from last night and tonight, where the Knicks were making that run. But obviously, that's not the reason the Knicks lost the game, fam, right? They're lacking. They're sorely lacking on the defensive side, I said it, I think, in the second quarter, or actually at halftime tonight. Mitch played 8 minutes and had 3 fouls in the first half, right? It's all good and well to wish Mitch come back, and, we know how much of an impact he is on the defensive side, right? But if you can only play 8 minutes and a half and ends up with 3 fouls, it ain't going to help us too much, right? So he didn't play smart tonight. Embiid looked probably the best I've seen Embiid look for a minute, but I want to make this point as well off the top, as we welcome everyone in. Chris Gotti, Shez V, Buzzer Beater, everyone else coming through the building. Shout out to Replay Squad as well. We're all feeling it right now, but it's the new year. Keep your head up. And I got a lot of ways where I think the Knicks will be good in the long run, but I think there's got to be some tweaks made, some rotations improved, and I think Leon Rose, the bigger picture is that, hey, these games are really showing the front office, I think, what might need to be done, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about that. But the point I'm going to make is I do think everyone's, treating the Knicks now as their cup final, Not that they needed much more juice to come into Madison Square Garden, and take a big dub. But you see teams swagger now. You see these teams really look at the Knicks and say, hey, we're looking up at y'all in the second seed, and we fancy ourselves against you. And I was listening to the Zach Lowe pod last night on The Ringer, and, he was hearing around the league, executives around the East, that teams aren't really fearing the Knicks, right? Not to say they're disrespectful, but they're looking at the Knicks saying, hey, the Knicks are beatable, and we believe we can beat them when it comes to money time, right? Now, I'm a guy that's mostly even keel. I keep my concern level at about a 5, but it's definitely gone up. It's gone up right now. It was a 6 after last night, and right now it's at a 7, ladies and gentlemen, right? It ain't at DEFCON stage, but 7 out of 10, my concern level is rising. Because, the Knicks are about to head out west, but before we do that, we're going to play the Clippers and we're going to play Detroit, right? Now, this is a mini funk. They can turn it around. 100% feel like they can, but a lot needs to be cleaned up. I still think Mike Brown's searching right now. Didn't like his rotations tonight. No Diawara for the most part. Kolek was too late to come into the game in the second quarter. He abandoned what was working previously, and he started the second quarter without Kolek, and the Knicks got down 8. And I thought that was the game, because early, the Knicks second night of a back-to-back. You need that energy. You need to stay in the game against a team that's physical and is coming at you. And I think Mike Brown, sitting Kolek early in the second really hurt the Knicks. They got down 8. But then Kolek came in. He finally realized he's got to get Kolek in. And the Knicks made a run. I think they cut it to 3. But they did not close out the half too well, fam, for the most part. They were down at the half. And they had a lot of comeback to make, a lot of ground to make up. But right now, I think our defense is glaringly obvious. Running into some teams shooting hot from 3. Tyrese Maxey tonight, man. He showed us how good of a player he is, but he was getting open looks. The inside-out game with Embiid was really hurting, and Kat and Mitch just had no answer, as did HAWKS, right? But I do think on the perimeter, I do think Mohamed Diawara was very, very unlucky not to be playing. And I do think Mike Brown still, like I said, I think on the last stream, that he's still figuring a lot of things out. But he needs to figure it out real quick, right? Kolek's a mainstay, in my opinion. He has to stay in the rotation. You don't abandon what he's been doing recently. Even despite a couple of turnovers last night and some struggles, you got to start the second quarter with Kolek. I think Kolek, outside of that late poor decisions in the fourth with some shot selection, he was a spark. He was a spark tonight with the energy. Deuce McBride was getting eaten up by Maxey, but so was, Mikal Bridges, so was OG Anunoby, who just doesn't look like himself right now. And look, every season OG's had a little funk. Looks like he's, exhausted and overly tired. But that is why you need that backup wing, Mohamed Diawara, to come in and really give us, that spark. Fam. Chris Gotti says, are the Knicks tired after the NBA Cup Finals? Appreciate y'all coming through. Shout out to everyone in the building. Appreciate y'all. And this is therapy session tonight for Nick Streets. And I do think, I think, there's a mixture of that physicality, but I think it's probably more mental. The schedule was always going to get tougher after the NBA Cup final, Chris Gotti. And I do think, the Knicks are starting to, play some teams out east that have been slow off the mark, but they're starting to find their ground. Atlanta ditched Trae Young or whatever. He's injured, and it looks like he's going to get traded. But the Hawks looked great last night, man. I can't take anything away from the Hawks. That was some of the best defense I've seen a team play on the New York Knicks. So it ain't like we're floundering against, nobodies, right? That lineup last night of Dyson Daniels, they had Okongwu, Jalen Johnson, you had Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and you had Risache, man. That's just nothing but athleticism and length. And that made us look small last night, as well as our tired legs. And tonight was much of the same story, although I do think we were better tonight than last night. But, we let Philly get their tails up early. They had that swagger. And, Mitch came in with that energy. You love the fight, the enthusiasm, but, he just wasn't disciplined. Neither was Kat. Too many ill-disciplined fouls on Embiid, and that kind of opened the floor up for everyone else to get downhill. Once they had that inside-out game as well. Kat, he came back into tonight with the stomach bug. Obviously not at 100%, and we really missed Kat last night. But I don't have too many positive things to say. I'm glad he's getting healthy, and obviously we really missed him last night, but it was a lot of the same story with Kat. Love him going to the basket, getting to the foul line. That really helped us tonight, as Kat is the fastest player in NBA history to reach 15,000 points, 7,500 rebounds, and 1,000 threes as well. That was with the first bucket of tonight. But as I say, man, a lot of follies on the defensive side, and teams are really going at us with the pick and roll, right? So, number one on my shopping list, fam, I know Christmas is over, but Leon Rose, man, can give us a late Christmas gift, hopefully at the trade market, trade deadline. And we do need another, I think another enforcer, another rebounder, another rim protector. HAWKS, is, one for the future, and I do think a work in progress, but the inconsistencies that he's at the moment ain't helping us. Yabu, we already know, he's probably got half of his bags packed already. As we had Westchester in action tonight as well. A lot of Dink Pate highlights I'm going to come through with, but shout out to everyone in the building. A lot of y'all unhappy with some of the, obviously the lacks in defense. D Grant though says Knicks fans need to relax. It's still a long season. The Knicks will be okay. So yeah, bigger picture stuff. I agree with you, man. I think the Knicks will be okay, but I don't think we can bury our heads in the sand either. And we do need to understand the deficiencies of this team. As I was hoping the Knicks would bounce back tonight, we could talk about the road ahead a lot more, but we do have to really, give these last 2-3 games their justice. The Spurs game, look, I think the Knicks were really up for that one. I do think they left a lot on the table in that Spurs game. They really wanted that one. But the Knicks have the second best 5-man lineup in the NBA at the moment. Minimum of 150 possessions, fam. And who is in that lineup that's missing right now? It's Josh Hart. Josh Lyon Hart. So, yeah, look, low-hanging fruit, but I got to say it, man. We are missing Josh Hart. He gives us a lot of, fight, a lot of hustle, rebounding, playmaking, and some shot making as well that we're really missing, and some defense. So, some positive news. Hart is, starting to progress in his comeback. We do have a report from Ian Begley that, Josh Hart is, getting ready to take on some light duties from next week onwards. So, but this lineup is a plus 21.2 5-man lineup, the second best in the NBA right now. So that is something why, and D Grant, and why I agree the Knicks will be okay long term, but we do need to make some adjustments, man. Continue to play Kolek, continue to play Diawara. Look, McCullough, I really like McCullough, and I'm happy that he's getting minutes, but he's on a 2-way contract, so they can't play him forever. Leon Rose has got to figure out the Yabu, he's got to figure out the Pacome Dardier situation, right? Also heading into tonight, the Knicks were top 5 in the Team LeBron statistics, right? OKC number 1, Boston number 2, and the Knicks number 3, right? But that is going to start to slip, right, in a major way, because our defense is just too porous. And look, the refs, the last 2 games, I could go on a whole, hour-long rant over the referees. The Knicks they've seen this before, guys. They've got to fight through it. Appreciate Buzzer says, great stat, CT. And it's 44 outside. Keep spitting more heat. Appreciate y'all coming through. Slow Runner says, awful game by Cat. Lonnie Meeks, salute, says, OG has a physical defensive assignment. Affected his offense. Yeah, OG looks tired. As I said, Lonnie. I do think like every season we've kind of seen the same from OG, and then he'll kind of, burst out of that slump. But wouldn't mind OG taking a rest. Obviously not against Detroit, but somewhere along the line coming up. Wouldn't mind to see OG, because he is shooting less than 30%, fam, on downtown over the last 10. And I think we're just not getting enough offense. Right? I want to start with defense, but we've got problems offensively as well that are very, very correctable. But we're just not getting enough out of Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. And look, last night with no Cat, a lot of people are very frustrated with our defense, but I'm also looking at, a $40 million guy and a $30 million guy that when Cat's out, those guys got to step up offensively, man. Brunson's been literally worn down just trying to get a bucket. And look, it's all on Mike Brown as well, because he's got to figure out good offense and good defensive lineups. Last night wasn't enough Deuce McBride. Tonight wasn't enough Diawara and not enough Kolek, in my opinion. but also some ill discipline from Mitch and Cat, I think really let us down tonight too. But look, they made it a less than double digits deficit late. They had a chance to make their run. A couple of ill-advised shots from downtown, from Cat, from Macau. Rush of blood to the head, Garden crowd going crazy. I do think one of the things we are lacking is IQ, with this team, right? Hart's going to give us a lot of this, when he returns, and he's going to return soon enough, and a lot of energy. But we do need to improve up here too, fam. And that's why I like Tyler Kolek on this team. I do think we get better looks. The ball swings around. But yeah, there was a lot of sloppy turnovers tonight in this one too. Not taking care of the basketball. When the physical side starts to get away at us, and the referees, as I was going to talk on earlier, guys, we have to learn to fight through it, and just try to embellish and sell the calls, because they ain't calling it. Last night Jalen Brunson was put in a headlock. Right, you can't make this stuff up. A lot of conspiracy theorists saying it's the NBA getting back at James Dolan, fam, for the Knicks not hanging a banner up. But long story short, the Knicks have had a bad whistle for a couple of seasons now, man. Brunson, for an All-NBA, All-Star starter, doesn't get a star whistle, right? And I know a lot of rivals are saying Brunson flops, this and that. But look at the free throw attempts, man. JB is not among the leaders in free throw attempts, He deserves to get to the line a lot more. But most of the time he has to sell the call, right, and show his visible frustration. Chris says, I think Knicks need another wing if Diawara is not ready now. 100%. I think, a wing with size and another big man. And obviously, you got Pacome and you've got Yabu. So basically, it ain't rocket science, guys. It's a like-for-like swap. A like-for-like swap out. Pacome, Dardier, and Yabul Sele, right? They can have their bags packed right now, right? Good guys, appreciate them being, good teammates and not complaining and, dealing with their challenges and whatever it is. It can't be easy. But at the same time, right, this is championship aspirations this season, and I do think we need more reinforcements in those spots, further down the roster. But I like the long-term play of Kolek, Diawara, and I like Kevin McCullough as well. Good to see Mike Brown still persist with those guys. He's not panicking and playing a 7-man rotation like Tibbs would. If a couple of guys are out, we all know that Tibbs would have put everyone in the doghouse and played a 7-man rotation tonight. But it just ain't possible with all these guys out. Also, want to give an honourable mention to Landry Shamet too. I really was thinking about Landry Shamet on a night like tonight, because he can come off the curl, he can get you some easy offense, and he can fight through screens and play some tenacious defense. So I do think we're missing Josh Lionheart and some Landry Shamet, but we did get Cat and we did get Mitch back. So, right, I can't make too many excuses from tonight. Last night was a lot more of an excuse because, you had no Mitch and no Cat. And as I said, the Hawks are a lot better without Trae Young, too. Now, we had another highlight from Dink Pate in Westchester. What are we going to do with Dink Pate past this trade deadline, fam? I do think an NBA team is going to pick him up pretty soon. He's looking pretty good out there in the G League, too. I know a lot of y'all are closely watching the progress of a Dink Pate who's 6'8", can put the ball on the deck. But like I said, obviously I'm very happy with McCullough and, Diawara, getting their minutes, but I think they deserve more. So the Knicks were down 8 at the half. How were you guys feeling at halftime? I wasn't feeling confident. It's just a matter of not being able to get defensive stops, and that does fuel our offense, It fuels our momentum right now. And last night, tonight, we just weren't able to get stops, Everyone just looks small out there, right? This is how bad of a whistle the Knicks are getting right now, fam. Joel Embiid trips up Tyrese Maxey. You see Mikal Bridges frustrated. Look at this. Embiid sticks his leg out, man. That's 5D chess, man. I've never seen that. Right. You trip up your own teammate so that the Knicks can get called a foul. Right. It's absolutely despicable right now. The whistle the Knicks are getting. Right. Hate to single refs out, man, but the female referee tonight, she was out of her depth. Look, she's right there. Literally right there. Right. And on the replay and her angle, it's clear as day. It's clear as day that Embiid trips up. Look, Mikal's not even anywhere near Maxey. Right there. And he gets tripped up by Embiid. Right. And the referee's right there. I mean, what can you do? These guys ain't doing their jobs right now. They need to be, sanctioned by their employers right now. But how are you guys feeling? The Knicks got to fight through this. Silver lining for y'all that feel like the Knicks ain't it right now. The silver lining is Leon Rose and these losses, right? These losses ain't sugarcoating anything, because Leon Rose, I think, is going to be aggressive. Now, if we continue to scrap out wins and, look like, we're trending in the right direction, maybe, he was not going to do anything major. But I do think at this point, with other teams in the East getting more healthy, we're going to talk about the Philly long term and some other teams out East when we touch on the standings tonight. But for the Knicks, I think the major problem is on the defensive side, right? The perimeter defense is lacking. And I do think Josh Hart, Landry Shamet are going to help out. But Diawara needs to play. And I do think on the offensive side, probably less Clarkson, more Kolek. That's my take right now. You just got to get back to basics, right? Clarkson tonight, as I pull up the box score, Clarkson was 1 of 4 in 18 minutes, right? Didn't do much else. 1 turnover, no assist, no steal, no block, no rebound, or 1 rebound, sorry. Is there a reason for Jordan Clarkson to play 18 minutes if he ain't giving you a single assist or a steal or a block and just 3 points? I mean, his job's out there to score the basket. And if he only has 3 points in 18 minutes, I mean, I'm looking at Diawara with just 2 minutes tonight. Unlucky. Kolek only 13 minutes was a +2. Ladies and gentlemen, so Kolek in 13 minutes was a +2 in a loss, right? Hit 2 of 5 from downtown. Actually did more scoring than the scorer Jordan Clarkson, supposedly. So Mike Brown, man, the last 2 games haven't been impressed. Haven't been impressed with Mike Brown's decision making and rotations too. He's getting a little too mad scientist, pulling guys in and out too much. I think he's playing Yabusele too much as well, right? Right, give Huck Porty, give Trey Jemison, and give Diawara all those minutes, right? Michael Drake, great to see you, fam. Happy New Year. Obviously, we haven't started the new year from a Knicks perspective, right, the way we wished, but there's plenty of way to go, fam. The year is just getting started. Michael Drake also says their body language is low right now. Yeah, look, short-handed. Last night was more of a one that I just want to throw in the trash. The Spurs loss, again, was a game that we really should have won, and we were, we played a great first half. But it's all starting to snowball. Tonight was the more bigger letdown because I was expecting a bounce back. But we ran into a Philly team that was full of confidence. They started to hit shots early, and look, we do have to hit on VJ Edgecombe because he's a difference maker for them, right? That wasn't something that I was accounting for early in the season, right? I mean, VJ Edgecombe, he looks as good as, if not better than, Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Like on a night like tonight, you just got to call it like you see it, I'm not comparing the two in any way in terms of like, what OG and Mikal have achieved in this league, speaks for itself. But I'm just talking about tonight, on a night where, okay, an alien lands from down to planet Earth and sees their first NBA game, watches tonight, and they could have easily said, "Oh, okay, VJ Edgecombe is is getting paid 40 million and is the 8-year veteran." And look, he was a stud, and obviously Philly hit. I think Philly hit on that draft pick right now. I think Embiid probably has a limited lifespan with Philly right now, but the future is Tyrese Maxey with VJ Edgecombe right now for them. And I think the Knicks just obviously need to continue to play and invest into their youth as well. But like I said, I'm at a 7 out of 10 in terms of my concern level. But when we're all healthy, I do think the team will figure it out. But there will be some tweaks. Leon Rose has got to make some changes, right? Yabu out. I would definitely trade Pacome Dardier, the Wizards pick, together with Yabusele. And you obviously got a chance, and take that chance and try to get a Sadiq Bey, right? Try and get an Ayo Dosunmu, another perimeter guy with size. Because I do think it's affecting their offense. For all the work McCall and OG are putting in, it's affecting their offense as well. And I've just been frustrated with Mikal Bridges' pull-up threes the last 2 nights because it's just completely flat. Johnny Chiba salute says the Knicks got those back-to-back blues. Yeah, look, back-to-back, that's a factor in it as well. But I do think that every team faces these. It's an 82-game season, and right now we're just past the third of the season, heading in towards the halfway point, fam. And the schedule is not going to ease up. Right now, is not going to ease up. Any word on Shamet's return, Chris Gotti? No word on Shamet yet, fam. I do think that's probably later in Jan, maybe February, but Josh Hart will be back, I think, a lot sooner. Johnny Cheeb is a fan of you like Mike's rotation at the moment. I just think that he tweaked some things tonight that I didn't like, but I do like that he's still playing, your McCullers, your Colex and all of that, because I do think that's progress on last season, but he's playing Yabu too much. Maybe that's more of a showcase from the front office perspective, because as I said, guys, it's hard to trade a guy if you ain't playing him. Don't forget we're trying to finesse a team right here. If we're burying Yabusele on the bench, then it's going to be more difficult to trade him. But look, the front office needs to wear that as well. They gave the man $5.5 million with a player option. As we see Kevin Mack knock down a 3 early, and the Knicks look solid in the first quarter. They were only down 31-30. And it was a poor late closeout to the first quarter, but they had some momentum early. They got the lead. But after that, man, it was all downhill. Right, it was all downhill. Let's bring up the stats right now. As we see, we got killed on the rebounds again. So Mike Brown tonight, he started with the double bigs, with Mitch and with Cat. And that played into Philly's hands, fam. As soon as, Mitch and Cat got into foul issues, right? And Mitch had to sit. Then you had to put Cat at the 5. And then things just went downhill from there on. Now the Knicks fought, but 10 blocks to 2. Philadelphia's defense, man, was on point again tonight. Their youthful athleticism was on show with Edgecombe, Maxey, Quentin Grimes, McCain. No Kelly Oubre either. So look, Paul George was good tonight as well. I've got to talk about Paul George, right? He was finally healthy and hitting shots. 16 turnovers from the Knicks too. These are 2 of the sloppiest games of the season, I think, on the offense. And I don't think no coincidence that the defense was giving us problems, right? Brunson looked, very sloppy at times. He looked confused because no one was coming off the curl. No one was, the energy that we had early in the season just wasn't there. Guys weren't getting to their spots, right? And when the referees aren't, making those calls, right? When you're not getting the whistle, it's it's even more tough, man, if Brunson's tired. So, look, I do put a lot. I do when the Knicks struggle, right? I like to look at the players that are on higher salaries, right? It's easy to criticize Mike Brown. It's easy to criticize Clarkson, Yabusele. It's easy to get on the young guys because they make mistakes, right? But what I like to do is I criticize the higher salary guys because they're the ones that you're paying, to step up. Brunson can't carry a team if Cat's out, all by himself, right? Last night, Mikal Bridges and OG weren't giving us enough. And I know they're two-way players, and, we're not just paying them for their offense, but I'm just saying you need more out of them. On a night like tonight, Cat, again, came on strong late. He has those moments in games where it's like, okay, Cat's got that momentum now. What can he do? And then he jacks up a logo 3, right? And yeah, it's all good if it went down and the Garden's buzzing. I think the lead would have been cut to 6 if Cat hit that big 3. But I mean, it was deep, man. It was all the way from, he shot that one from Brooklyn, fam. Lonnie Meek says the Knicks could do with a Kelly Oubre. Yeah, another veteran. I wouldn't mind, man. Sadiq Bey, Kelly Oubre, Ayo Dosunmu. I mean, I would still take Jose Alvarado at this point. Now, it ain't... I don't think it's the biggest need because of the size of Jose Alvarado, or a Javon Carter. I mean, I would love a way to try to get a Malik Monk, just another guy. But I do think Landry Shamet is going to give us that on a cheaper contract. Yeah, look, silver lining for me, guys, is that this team still has some needs, and I do think the fact that we've lost a couple and we're looking tired, and we're relying more on the younger guys, that Leon Rose now, has to see. He has to see that, we need another big and we need another wing, I think, or another guy that can guard on the perimeter. Now, Deuce has just got back, and for the most part, I think Deuce has been our best player over the last couple of games. I think he returned against San Antonio, right? So I think, yeah, Deuce has been our best player over the last 3-4 games, I think, since coming back. But he's not without his, flaws as well, because when at the start of the second quarter with no Kolek, that was horrible, man. Deuce McBride looks sloppy trying to run the offense, and we know that's not his strong suit. So that's on Mike Brown for that poor rotation early in the start of the second. Look, silver lining is that we are second in the East still. A lot of things we need to clean up. But the schedule right now, guys, as I'm about to pull up the standings, the Knicks missed a valuable opportunity, man, to win these last 2 and get separation. Right now, we're going to have Boston on our hammer as we face a lot of tough games, right? Detroit on Monday, Clippers on Wednesday, Phoenix starting the West Coast trip Friday, Portland, Sac, Golden State back-to-back. Then Phoenix back at home, Dallas, Brooklyn, Philly again, Sacramento, Raptors, Portland, fam. I do think this one and January and February are going to be the make or break, I think, in terms of our season, in terms of where we ultimately end up, in terms of the toughest. Michael says Knicks not playing like a team. Yeah, they do look a little discombobulated, but I can understand that because you're playing new guys, young guys are in the rotation. But Mike Brown's not helping it because he's still trying to figure out these minutes, right? He's playing Yabusele, he's playing Diawara with a quick hook. McCullough's just trying to embed him into a rotation. But then tonight with Kolek was a bit out of the norm as well. Full court defense, Michael, also, I don't think the Knicks have the personnel with Brunson out there to do that. If you do get a Jose Alvarado or a Javon Carter, we can definitely do that. Michael also says we need Sadiq Bey. Look, that's going to be a tough sell with New Orleans, but it's possible with some draft capital. Yabu, Dardier, the Washington pick, New Orleans might want to go bigger. You know, they might want Mitchell Robinson or something like that. Now, I'm not at the point where I'm running out of patience with Mitchell Robinson in terms of the availability, because I understand the bigger picture. But best believe you guys already know what I'm saving my, major evaluations for, and that's for the postseason, right? There will be wholesale changes in the summer if we don't get it done, right? I don't think I'll be trading Mitch mid-season right now. You just got to deal with the consequences of the, the availability. When he's on and he's dominant, he's so important to our team. But these guys just got back after a layoff, Mitch and Cat. Obviously, we need to get Hart back because, he's arguably our most energetic wing, fam. As much as I love Bridges and OG when they're on, Hart provides more of that energy in terms of, his motor, he skies for rebounds, he's physical. He'll fight over screens, he'll take charges, he'll draw fouls as well. He can go coast to coast and get you a quick bucket. So I saw a lot of people say, look, we got to appreciate Cat after last night. Well, we also got to not forget, and still appreciate Josh Hart, when we miss him on a night like tonight. Johnny Chiba says, when Knicks aren't aggressive on D, it affects the rhythm on the offense. Yeah, and there are a lot of things that we can control better, such as the rotations and, the ability to fight over screen. But there are some things that I think we're always going to, maybe level out, which is teams shooting the three against us at a higher clip, right? We see these last two nights, a Kongu can't miss, Maxi can't miss. We got lucky earlier in the season, This could be variance sort of coming back to level where teams, okay, they're going to start to shoot better on us. Even if we play better defense, teams might just start to shoot better. And, I think one of the things that we got to do better at is contesting, not get those blow-bys with the contest. Also, I do think if we can get some more size, in our lineups, and so far McCullough and Diawara need to play, right? McCullough, Diawara, and Kolek need to play, and obviously, like I said, I would lower Clarkson's minutes, and I would definitely yank Yabusele out of the rotation right now, because I don't think he's given us anything at all. I mean, how about that air ball? How about that air ball earlier in the game tonight from Yabusele? Right, from the corner as well, right? Like, it was completely, he missed everything, backboard and all. Lonnie says, Dink Pate, the Knicks have phobia against players with length. Look, we'll see what the plan is ultimately. Again, I'm saving most of my evaluations for after the trade deadline as well. Because, yeah, Leon Rose has brought us some impact moves every single season, starting from the D Rose one, to the Hart, to the OG one, to the Bogdanovich, Mikal Bridges, all of that. Mikal Bridges was a summer move, but Derrick Rose was the other one. And then obviously, yeah, he traded Jericho Sims and that for DeLon Wright, which, helped us in the playoffs a little bit. So, yeah, I'm expecting nothing less. Let me expect that, that Leon Rose is going to make, some impactful moves, and buy out guys possibly. Now, some other stats for y'all. So these are the 5-man worst lineups in the league, right? Thank goodness we don't have one of these. And we probably shouldn't, because we're the second seed still, right? As much as our defense is regressing at the moment by the day, it hasn't been this bad, right? So you've got the number one worst 5-man lineup with Westbrook. You've got Precious Achua in the lineup together with a couple of other guys from Sacramento, DeMar DeRozan. And you've got the Pelicans with the second worst lineup too. And I think Sadiq Bey is in that lineup, fam. Looks like Trey Murphy, Eves Missy. And this is a minimum of 150 possessions, by the way. Minimum 150 worst possessions. You got another lineup with Dennis Schroeder and Sabonis, but no Sadiq Bey in that one. Actually, yeah, sorry, Sadiq Bey, yeah, with the Pels, right? But yeah, you got the Lakers as well with Luka, right? Austin Reeves, and you've also got LeBron and DeAndre Ayton, and you've got the Bulls with Josh Giddey. But the thing that caught my eye is so far the fifth worst five-man lineup, minus 13, is the Cleveland Cavaliers with Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter, Jalen Tyson, Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland, right? That just goes to show where the NBA is going right now, fam. You need size. Like, Evan Mobley's more of a rangy power forward. He's skinny. That's a very small lineup with Hunter and a very small backcourt, right? Some other stats as well, right? So this is overall shot making, right? So the higher in the graph, the shooting better relative to shot quality. And left to right is the ability to get easier shots, right? So look at the Knicks, right? So vertically means shooting better relative to the shot quality, right? So the Knicks that high, it means we're shooting at a good rate considering the poor shot quality, right? So shots, we're hitting tough shots. And left to right means getting easier shots, right? So look at us in comparison to the Lakers, OKC, and the Denver Nuggets, all the way to the right. They're getting easy quality shots with the Joker. We're hitting tough shots, but our ability to find quality shots is very poor, right? In terms of the scale, we're all the way to the left, right? So the quality of our shots are not good, but we're hitting them at the highest possible rate compared to any other team. So this has me a little bit worried because is it sustainable when teams start to, really tighten up their defense, right? When teams really start to, amp it up like they have over the last two nights, we've seen, and in San Antonio as well. We can't always hit tough shots. What's going to happen when we start missing? Ladies and gentlemen, we need to get that Knicks logo further to the right, right? We need to get the Knicks further to the right in terms of easier quality shots right now. Now, transition is one way. When Josh Hart is out there, we do get easier buckets in transition. When Cat's out there, healthy, better playmaking. When Kolek is out there, Kolek needs to play more. Get easier shots right now. So that is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen, right? Now, last night, again, we had a bad whistle. I think a critical turnover. Yabusele was fouled on that one. Right, I made note of this one. And I do think, the ref's definitely treating the Knicks, terrible right now. This is a key turnover last night. But you see Krejci, he's basically shoving Yabu, man. Completely shoving him, man. You see the bigger picture here too, right? He's got two guys on him, but you got a guy shoving him in the ribs, with the forearm. So right now, man, the Knicks just got to man up and play more physical on the perimeter and make these teams feel us. But we do got to trust our young wings right now. I don't think Mike Brown can go away from that, right? We don't want OG and Mikal to miss more time and, get more tired, playing more minutes, right? I think the best way for OG to get back to his best is to keep him fresh, right? Because his legs look heavy right now, Now these guys, they've still got that heart. They fought these last two nights, but just silly turnovers and defensive lapses, I think, were the main killer. Above the rim says, looks like they did not practice. Yeah, look, they do look, out of cohesion, Where's that play calling that we saw earlier in the season? I think the schedule, is definitely getting a lot tougher, and we'll see about these practices. Johnny Chiba says, CT, the Knicks are not playing sharp or smart. What gives? Look, Brunson's forcing it a little bit. I think more Kolek. Deuce Scott definitely needs to be off ball, more catch and shoot. But yeah, I think Johnny Chiba, I think our main issue is, not getting stops, because that fuels our offense. It's amazing how good our offense can look getting downhill. You see last night ATL and tonight Philly were getting downhill. Things look a lot better when you can get stops and you can get downhill. Like, look at this possession. It's just a basic bucket from OG. Didn't need to create a shot or do nothing. He just needs to run the floor. Brunson finds him. Now, how did we get in this situation last night? Because we were pushing the break. We were getting stops right now. So tonight, I mainly blame Mike Brown, but as a player perspective, I blame Mitch and Cat. Because, when MB got going, that just opened the floor up for Edgecombe and Maxey, right? I do think Cat and Mitch, they're going to be a lot more disciplined, right? Yeah, if Embiid's going to score on you, just keep your hands up. A 2-pointer's not going to kill you. Just be more disciplined, and we're not playing smart. Michael says the Knicks are playing less minutes, CT. They look so tired. Last year, they're playing 40, 42, 43 minutes with Tibbs. I think the pace, though, fam, we've been playing at a faster pace this season, so that's a factor as well. Also, we were told that the team was going to practice more, so, the NBA Cup extra game as well. Too. And look, every season these players are getting a year older, so that's why the time is now to win that chip, because OG, Macau, all these guys, they got more mileage on their bodies too. So durability could be that concern moving forward, especially it is with Mitch right now. I mean, Mitch plays 20, 25, 30 minutes, and then he needs to sit a couple. Now I know they're saving him for the playoffs, but how much of it is that, and how much of that is his dealing with that soreness as well. See, look, all in all, I think we're still in a better position now than we were last season. Are there concerns? Absolutely, there still is. But I think we're in a better position now than we were last season, mainly because the younger players and the rotation, is longer, and I think there's more guys we can trust. Now, that's not to say they're going to, win a playoff series and all of that. But I think the fact that Kolek is now a mainstay is an advancement. McCullough, Diawara, if, Mike Brown can correct and start to play Mohamed Diawara a lot more, because we do need that size right now. We are small. Now, it's no coincidence, as I saw earlier, right? The fifth worst 5-man lineup is that Cleveland lineup with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. That's why Cleveland been struggling for a large part of this season. Fam, and now's the time I'm going to bring up the standings and the action from around the league. Right? So let me refresh right now. Continue to shout you guys out. David Hart says, last year we had continuity. Yeah, we are chopping and changing a lot of rotations, but I do think that'll settle down post-trade deadline. Clearly I think Yabusele or Dardier are going to get moved, and clearly there's going to be an addition to the team. Now, I do hope they can find a way to get another big, or get Trey Jemison off of the two-way, because I think we need his energy. Mitchell Robinson has that durability concern, and Huck Porty still, learning the ropes. But we do need an upgrade in that area, or some depth. Trey Jemison off of the two-way, or McCullough off of the two-way. Ladies and gentlemen, so look at that. The Boston Celtics, right? They must have won today. Let me pull up. Okay, no, they haven't. So they haven't actually finished their game yet, right? But Boston is up by 8 right now on the Clippers, right? So what's going to happen? They'll go to 22-12. We're 23-12, ladies and gentlemen. So we're entering a storm right now where the Boston Celtics can move within half a game. They'll be on a 3-game winning streak if they can beat the Clippers tonight. I'll be rooting for the Clippers, man, after this post game. But the Knicks on a 3-game losing streak. The Celtics can pull within half a game of the New York Knicks. Now, I think the Raptors, Raptors picked up a win as well. They defeated the Hawks on the back-to-back. So the Raptors inch closer as well, right? The Raptors are only 2.5 back of the Knicks, right? Philadelphia starting to get it together a bit. They're up to 5th now at 19-14, right? Is Leon Rose going to pull off that move soon? Right? He might not wait to the trade deadline, because I think this team needs a boost, man. We really are missing Josh Hart. Fam. Johnny Chiba says, as much as I like Mike Brown's open rotation, allowing the younger guys some run, perhaps the players' lack of continuity and consistency playing with each other has led to their discombobulation. Yeah, I think that's a factor as well. You know, I do think that's very, very plausible. And just the mindset of the players, you know. What I found really interesting, fam, the other night when McCullough had the breakout game, and he had the walk-off interview with MSG Networks. Man, I feel like that was a win. Yeah, I feel like that was our last win when McCullough had the breakout game and the walk-off interview. And he was asked, you know, how do you prepare and did you know you were going to play this much? And to my surprise, he said no. Like, he had no idea. McCullough had no idea he was set to play that much. And basically, he was close to DNPs before that. So he went from basically not playing at all to playing like 20, 23 minutes that night. Now, I know players got to stay ready and absolutely, you know, they need to be locked in. If you're on the New York Knicks, you know the goal. But I did find that interesting that Mike Brown didn't at least give him a heads up that, hey, I'm about to give you some major burn. So I do think that's playing on the guys a little bit, fam. They don't know how much they're going to play. You know, Mike Brown's given them a quick hook for some of these guys. I do think there's a little bit of frustration starting to creep in. But again, I'm just going to go back to our main guys. Cat, Mitch, OG, Mikal Bridges. Like, Hart's out, right? So we can't criticize Hart right now. If anything, we're clamoring for Hart to come back. But Deuce McBride's on peanuts and he's playing well. So who else can we look to? You know, you got to look to the guys who are, you know, earning major bread. And those are Karl Anthony Towns, Mitchell Robinson on 15, 16 mil, Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. You know, everyone else is a young guy or on a veteran's minimum. Right? For the most part, Clarkson's given us what he's supposed to do. You know, outside of tonight, last night, you know, he's won us the NBA Cup. He's had some big games. He's on a vet minimum deal, right? You know, if he's hurting you, Mike Brown just plays him less. But Mikal Bridges, OG, Karl Anthony Towns, man, they need to be leaders and step up right now. Right. One of the things I was concerned last night, guys, is, you know, Jalen Brunson showed that visible frustration. Right. He's getting frustrated, is Jalen Brunson, because he's dealing with, you know, guys getting hit, guys hitting him, you know, elbows, forearms, all of that. And, you know, other guys aren't getting open, you know, to help out on offense. They're not getting looks, easy looks right now. We are missing Cat in that regard. You know, at least with Cat, we've got the pick and roll. We can play the high-low. Cat can pass out of the post. With Mitch, obviously we can't really do that. But everything's perimeter-based if there's no Karl Anthony Towns, you know. Huck Porty looked sorry on the offensive side, you know, last night. He tried, but yeah, every time he grabs an offensive rebound, he pulls it down, and then he'll either get, stripped, or he'll lose it, and he can't go back up strong. He doesn't have that vertical elevation that those other guys have. So yeah, without Cat, we've got no one else that can play in the post. If you can get a Sadiq Bey, that'll open up some post game. If you can get another post player that can pass out of the post, I think that would be something to keep an eye on. We're definitely going to do a trade deadline show and preview, look at targets. I'll give you some names that I think we should target and look at. But I do think right now probably the biggest need is perimeter based on the defensive end, and then another big man. Right? A big man with some skills, offensively. Now, it is going to be interesting. Teams are going to be calling the Knicks. We know they have those conversations about all players. Teams would be calling, maybe asking about Deuce. Teams might be calling, still asking about Mitchell Robinson, right? Especially New Orleans, a team that might want him to come back home. Deuce McBride's earning not much, but outside of that, our biggest other trade asset is the Washington pick, which is going to be most likely 2 seconds. Right? I see a trade rumor that Tuamani Kamara from the Blazers might be on the move to another team out west. Now, that's a guy I would love to look at. Not sure what the salary is, but the Blazers beat the Spurs today. They're a dangerous team. The Jazz are beating the slumping Warriors right now. The Hornets are beat the Bulls. Now, thankfully, the Timberwolves took care of the Heat, so at least something went our way, guys, today. But the Raptors got the dub. Philly got a dub. The Celtics might get a dub. Go Clippers, fam! I need the Clippers to beat the Celtics. Right? That one looks like it's in Boston. Actually, let me just double check that one, fam. No, that is in LA, so that is a positive, fam. Hopefully the Clippers can get that one together, because yeah, the East is really starting to bunch up a lot more now. With Philly only has 14 losses, right? I know they need to win a couple to catch up to the Knicks, right? The Knicks still have 4 more wins than Philly, right? But Philly only has two more losses, and the Knicks losses might pile up. Right, from a mental standpoint as well, right? That could be something to pay attention to, right? We need to get more healthy, obviously, but that is on the front office. They built this roster, right? For a team that is deep in terms of top 5, top 7 guys, we are very, very dependent on those guys. We are very dependent on scoring from OG Anunoby, right? His 3-point ball has been horrible as of late, right? Let me bring up his shooting from tonight. Here we go with the stats. The box score from tonight, ladies and gentlemen. OG Anunoby was a -8. He shot 3 of 5 from downtown. Okay, so he shot a lot better tonight, but it just didn't feel like they were easy shots. 6 of 11, got to the bucket, got to the line. I think OG was a lot better tonight than last night, but still a -8. -8 from Cat, -11 from Mitch, -11 from Bridges, and -11 from JB. Deuce a +5. Tyler Kolek a +2. So the bench lineup, especially to start the fourth, got us back into this one, but some ill-advised shots really hurt us. Buzzer Beater says, with OG, Macau, Diawara, McCullough, Deuce, our perimeter defense should be there. But shot creation is an issue as well then, fam. You know, I still think we need some post presence. Otherwise, everything's perimeter based. And I think what we've seen, we can beat average to bad teams, you know, playing with deeper rotations. But when you come up against two, you know, defensive teams like Philly and ATL with the wings they've got, that's where it's going to be a lot more challenging. You know, fam, it's going to be a lot more challenging. Right? Right. Is it, you know, is it clamoring, clutching at straws to think about a Dink Pate? Right. I mean, he's right in the Knicks' backyard right now. You know, playing with Westchester. I'm about to peep his final stats. Because yeah, Dink Pate is a guy, you know, prototypically would help with dribbling, creating, and with some size. You know. But I do think, again, Landry Shamet is a big key as well. He was playing well before he went down. I guess it's just been so long that a lot of people have forgotten about, you know, a Landry Shamet, right? So Donovan Williams had a big night, 29 points, 8 rebounds. He's been playing well, fam. As Westchester pulled it out in overtime, Tosan and Woma was playing well as well. So yeah, Dink Pate had 21 points in the third. So I don't have his final stat line, but yeah, Dink Pate presumably would have put up more than 25, 30. So yeah, he's starting to really figure it out. I'm definitely looking to get him off of the two-way, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, next game, let's do a mini preview, right? Michael says, yeah, the Celtics right there. Please don't let the Knicks lose another game. We're gonna arrest this slump right now. Buzzer says, would you trade Mitch and Deuce for Sadiq Bey? I would say no. I think there's other ways to address the concerns. But again, I wouldn't move Mitch or Deuce. That's my opinion right now. I think we've got to wait for the summer for more of these wholesale moves. But there are moves on the margins that we can definitely, you know, make and tweak. Yeah, old 28B says needed Landry tonight. Any news on his return? Rehab progressing as normal. No setbacks. You know, no return date, you know, in terms of that. So unfortunately, it's still a wait and see. But, you know, he's, you know, trending in that right direction, right? So I do think I'm expecting a possible January return, you know, maybe later this month. Obviously, Hart will be back a lot sooner. AP salutes as Boston destroying LA. We're going to end up losing our spot. We'll see. You know, I think it's still early in that ball game. But yeah, hopefully the Clippers can get back into it and make that run, ladies and gentlemen. So, look, the schedule's getting tougher. Two teams that were chippy, treating the Knicks like their final. This back-to-back was tough, right? The Spurs game, we really let that one slip. We should not have let that game slip. We had the lead, and that's one concern I have with this team in terms of lapses. You know, we're cruising a lot of the time. You know, a lot of the time we just take our foot off the gas. You know, you got to learn to play 48. This is the NBA. You know, and you can't let teams, you know, find life and get back into it. You know, you've definitely got to hustle and play hard for the entire 48, right? But again, I do think variance is starting to catch up to us too. You know, we're getting easier shots when we're getting stops, right? But when our defense is slumping, there's no coincidence. We're looking at this graph, ladies and gentlemen, right? So the Knicks hitting tough shots at the highest rate. But in terms of relative to getting easier shots, right, we're having to, you know, to scrape by and get tough looks, right? We're not making anything easy for ourselves, right? So, yes, these other teams aren't hitting shots at the same rate, but they're far further along to the right in terms of ease of looks. You got the Nuggets, just everything seems more sustainable with them, with the playmaking they have with Murray, the Joker. Even you've got Minnesota, you've got San Antonio and the Rockets finding easier shots or higher shot quality. But the Knicks are right there along with the Bucks and the Clippers, which is not great, right? The Celtics are starting to make way. Obviously, there are a lot of isolation. Jaylen Brown. I'm not surprised to see the Celtics kind of, there along the tough shot quality to the left because, without Jason Tatum, there are a lot of isolation still. Same with the Miami Heat, having to play through Bam. So yeah, this isn't my chart, Buzzer. This is courtesy of B-Ball Index, fam. So yeah, here you go. Appreciate the question. But yeah, I do think it's telling, right? So you see team level shot making, right? Shooting better relative to the quality and the ease of looks, right? One of the reasons we fired Thibodeau was that we could, simplify our offense, diversify our offense, and try to, make the most of a cat, Mikal OG. But, can't put all the blame on Thibodeau from last season because, he was getting offense out of our guys. He knew that, Bridges doesn't create shots really at a high level. His handles isn't great from a shot creation perspective. Now, he's a great knockdown wing, mid-range. But in terms of OG Anunoby, his level of shot creation isn't high. He gets his buckets off straight line drives and pull-up threes and all of that. And then it goes back to Karl Anthony Towns, We really need to supercharge our offense and get the most out of him from a higher quality look. And then outside of that, it's Deuce and Brunson. So enter the equation, maybe another wing, Hart and Landry Shamet, right? Josh Hart can create shots. He creates shots in an unorthodox way, but he can create shots, getting, charging to the basket, getting fouled, transition. And Landry Shamet is another guy on this team that was, having success. I think creating shots. Now, I don't want to sound vindicated because I hate Boston, but before the season began, I said to everyone, don't count out Boston, right? I still respected Boston a lot more than most of the other teams because even without Tatum, number one, they're Boston. They're always going to find some rotation players out of nowhere. Number two, they've got a good coach. And number three, they've still got quality players from last season. Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Hauser, and these other guys, So Boston's starting to make that run right now. Now, am I worried about Boston finishing ahead of us? Look, as much as I want the second seed, I'm more worried about bigger picture stuff, getting to the playoffs healthy, right? If the Celtics pass us into second spot and we end up going down to third, so be it. I think anywhere as long as we're second or third, we'll obviously have that opportunity to get far as we can in the playoffs, and we need to correct our slump at the moment, 5-5 over the last 10. Right now we are 18-10 in the conference. We're 7-8 away. Our home record takes a bit of a slight dip now, 15-4 at home. Right. Michael says, do you think we had a soft schedule first 33, and when the schedule gets tougher, we start to falter? I think a small part of that, Michael, man. I think, yeah, we did play some teams that, we did catch some luck. You know, missing some guys, but for the most part, it evens itself out. You know, I do think you are what your record says. You know, we've been playing really good ball, and no doubt our play has dipped. It's not just the schedule. Our defense and our offense is sliding. Now, maybe our guys are going to fatigue as the season goes along. Now, one thing I did not anticipate, guys, is we've had a lot more injuries than what was to be anticipated. You know, OG's missed plenty of time. Mitch has missed time. Bronson and Cat have missed some time. Hart's missed plenty of time now as well. Landry Shamet has missed plenty of time now as well. So I think it's going to even itself out. Like our young players, we're relying on them a lot. And if I had told you at the start of the season we were going to rely on Kolek, McCullough and Diawara and that, people would probably start to feel queasy about it. But I think on the positive front, those guys for the most part have helped us win ball games. Now we are starting to see the other side of the coin where, okay, young players, they're not always going to be able to help you. They're not always going to be able to get it going. But they are just going to have to play, you know. They are just going to have to play and see what they got. You know, I prefer this over last season's situation with Thibodeau. And for the most part, Kolek's been really good and been helping us. So that's a big win. Diawara and McCullough front is a bit more of hit and miss. Huckporty the same. It's a damn shame that first round pick on Pacome Dardier, you know. Would have liked us to maybe select, you know, another guy that we could have selected. AJ Mitchell, Terrence Shannon. If we had hit with Kolek and the Dardier pick, that would have been cool. There have been two young guys that are like, okay, you know, surefire rotation. Now, I think Mohamed Diawara has been solid, but is he ready to play 20 to 25 a night and help us win, you know, big games against tough teams? I still think, you know, you're going to deal with some growing pains, you know, with that. But, you know, we'll figure it out, fam. I think Leon Rose now has got the blueprint on what this team is capable of. Michael says, yeah, CT, that's true. Bigger picture. Better in the postseason. That's what we need. AP says it's the pride for me. Yeah, you know, defensively, it makes me sick to see us, you know, not show more fight defensively. You know? But, look, if we beat the Spurs in San Antonio, I don't think everyone is as down as we are right now. It would have been just 2 back-to-back losses, you know, and we look to bounce back. If we had beat that Spurs game, which we should have won, but now we're just going to have to really grit our teeth and get it against Detroit, fam. Right? If they can't get up for that one, then, you know, that is going to be a huge swing in the standings. And then you got the Clippers, Phoenix, and that road trip. Right? So I'm going to do a quick check-in now on the Celtics-Clippers game. Clippers 39, Celtics 51 with 5 minutes to play in the second. So, look, Celtics look like they're going to take that one out. And the gap is going to reduce to just half a game. But the Celtics do need to win a couple, I think, to... well, no, they'll only be... Sorry, that's the Raptors and Philly. The Celtics will be right there, half a game back. Just one less win. And the same amount of losses, too, fam. So, basically neck and neck. Right? So... Yeah, look, I'm looking to our veterans long term, Leon Rose to hopefully pull a rabbit out and get us some more help from the rotation standpoint. But yeah, Mikal Bridges got to be better, OG's got to be better, and Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson have got to be better right now. You know, Brunson has to be better as well, too. I'm not trying to exclude JB, but right now, I do think, you know, he's giving us his all right now. We know his shortcomings, the physicality, the size, too. But yeah, look, this team showed some fight late, but yeah, they dug themselves too much of a hole early. And yeah, let's see. Detroit will be off a back-to-back that might help us, says Buzzer Beater. So yeah, appreciate that, fam. Let me see who Detroit play before that game, right? And they play the Cleveland Cavaliers, so that is good. So Detroit play Cleveland tomorrow, and then they'll play us. So it will need all the help we can get, Buzzer. I like that. AP says Detroit is better, right? Better right now, better for the future, better overall. Let us know. Because the thing, why I say that is, the season's an 82 game schedule, and so teams can look better in the moment, but are they better when the postseason comes, or are they better long term? I do think Detroit has more flexibility than the Knicks long term. The Knicks are basically all in. If we can't win a chip this season, we're preying on a Giannis, forceful trade request. We're hoping on a Giannis, get me to New York. That's our best card right now, outside of a cat trade. Maybe a sideways cat trade for Anthony Davis or something, something of that ilk. But outside of that, if we can't get a chip this year, we don't have that much flexibility. Now, we'll start to get a few first-round picks, and you never know, you could hit on a pick, and that player could really elevate. And that's why I'm looking at Philly now. If VJ Edgecombe can be a legit second option, sometimes first option, think of how VJ Edgecombe's going to look in his second and third year. This is a rookie that doesn't even look afraid right now. He just comes into Madison Square Garden. He looks like a more athletic Jimmy Butler right now with better offense, fam. That is absolutely crazy right now, man. I don't want to be too negative, but if next year, man, if Philly can get it together and VJ Edgecombe is this legit, yeah, the Knicks clock is ticking, man, ASAP. Leon Rose best better get Giannis or a couple of major depth pieces. CT, where do you see the Trey going? I like Trey going out west. I like Trey going to Sacramento, fam. I haven't heard enough talk about Sacramento making some boneheaded or some major trade. I mean, Zach LaVine, DeRozan, they've got Sabonis, they've got a lot of tradable pieces. Malik Monk, I think, is going to be on the move. That's the best landing spot. Or maybe a Ja Morant. Maybe he goes to Memphis and they move off of Ja. The other one I'll give you, fam, I'll give you one team out east, the Charlotte Hornets. I do think they might be looking to move off of LaMelo. Trae Young's passing is legit. Let's not forget. Trae Young can pass the basketball. If you've got Brandon Miller and Con Kneppel and all these sharpshooters that Charlotte are accumulating, maybe Trae Young could go out there. But outside of that, I don't see many other teams interested in Trae, to be honest, fam. Maybe the Clippers get desperate. Maybe the Clippers think, okay, James Harden, Kawhi, that thing's, that's starting to age on us. Maybe LA panic a little bit if they feel like Austin Reeves is gonna move along. But then you got Luka. That's a bad fit. That's a bad fit in terms of too many ball handlers and too many defensive liabilities. See, I really like Sacramento as a fit for Trae Young. Big name. They need to sell tickets out there to the fans. They've been losing a lot of basketball games. I think, Vivek always wants to stay relevant. They lost De'Aaron Fox. They might want to keep Sabonis and try to sell the fans on a Trae Young Sabonis, pick and roll threat. They want to probably get off of DeRozan and LaVine. And maybe they could use Malik Monk's salary. They got Keon Ellis as well. AP says, I can see Dolan is not happy from here. We need to win. I don't care who we get. Yeah, look, I'd pump the brakes on Philly still long term because we know Paul George, Embiid, when they're healthy, they look solid. You wake up tomorrow and then you find out they're out. Things can change real quick. If PG and Embiid aren't healthy, VJ, Edgecombe, and Maxi's not enough, right? As much as they look nice as the third and fourth options, or the first, second, and fourth options, that's not enough. So they do need Paul George and Embiid to stay healthy, which is basically, you know, if I'm asking you to bet on Embiid to stay healthy for the playoffs, right? That's like asking pigs to fly. Man, Embiid won't be healthy to play multiple playoff games in a row or playoff series at a healthy level. So I'm not worried about Philly too much yet. I'm more worried about Boston and Detroit. That's about it. Maybe Orlando. Maybe Orlando. But the thing that scares me about Orlando, fam, that they got good pieces and they got depth. They could entertain trading Paolo Banchero. That could really help them in a Giannis trade. If they could get Giannis with Franz Wagner and those other guys, that's legit. I'm not a big Paolo guy, right? He can't shoot, and maybe Orlando's starting to wake up. They could offer a package of draft picks and Paolo, which would be the young player that Milwaukee might be interested in. And obviously Detroit's flexible too. Atlanta's quite flexible from a trade perspective. So yeah, I think the Knicks window's a couple of years, but this year is our best chance, right? Next year it's going to get a lot tougher, fam. A lot tougher, and I think this year is our best chance. LAC, yeah, is the Del Boca Vista basketball retirement community, says Buzzer. Nice one. Yeah, Harden and Kawhi, I think they're out of there soon, right? But they don't have their draft pick, so they can't tank. So they want to stay relevant, fam. Same with Sacramento, man. All those teams out west want to stay relevant. Look out for Utah, man. Danny Ainge going to do something. Danny Ainge has to wake up. Does he trade Walker Kessler? I know he's injured. Does he trade Larry Markkinen to lose some more games? So yeah, let's see how it all plays out, fam. I need a rest after these two, back-to-back nightmares, basically, after a tough San Antonio loss. But we're going to wake up in a day's time because Detroit, right? Detroit in this West Coast trip is looming. Now, I fancy our chances against the Clippers at home, even if we lose to Detroit. I fancy our chances against the Clippers, but Detroit is away. Little Caesars Arena, right? Hopefully some Knicks fans cop some tickets, right? It'd be a nice, atmosphere to see, the Knicks party represent in Detroit like they did for the playoffs, right? There'll be a great atmosphere with the Detroit fans, the Knicks fans going back at it, right? But you know how much juice there is going to be in the building. If you thought Atlanta had juice last night against the Knicks, or Philly had juice against the Knicks tonight, man, Detroit in their home arena is going to be buzzing, man. Now, the possible thing in our favor, like Buzzer said earlier, is that Detroit have a back-to-back, right? Detroit play Cleveland. They might rest everyone for that one, right? Wouldn't be surprised if Detroit rest everyone against Cleveland, knowing that they still could beat them, and that Cleveland are further away in the standings. The Knicks are the closest team, so that's the more important game for Detroit, right? Now, the second thing going for the Knicks is that Jalen Brunson usually has his best games on the road, right? He's self-confessed. Jalen Brunson plays better on the road. That's coming from his own mouth. So he likes to play on the road, I think, better than MSG. I think if you gave Jalen Brunson that truth serum, he prefers to play in that hostile arena, versus Madison Square Garden, where there's more pressure. No one likes the home crowd starting to, get antsy. and start to boo when the other team starts to feel it. But Jalen Brunson loves to be the villain, and so does McCall, like they were in Boston, last season, fam. Right. We quieten down the TD Garden. We quieten them down. But at Madison Square Garden, we seem to give these other teams that life, too. Shea Signature Salute says the Knicks winning that chip won't happen with Brunson and Cat in the same starting lineup. That's the biggest hurdle I think we're going to face, and it's the rest of the roster needing to step up as well. Ultimately, it could come down to the salaries, the distribution, paying OG 40, McCall 30. That's 70, 80 million in two guys that don't create a whole lot of offense. They're more play finishers. Even Cat. If you really look at it, Cat's a play finisher. He's not really a shot creator outside of a straight line drive and his athleticism. Mikal Bridges got a nice little pull up, but he needs a screen, or he needs separation, and OG is the same. Right? So, a lot of, again, it's the fine margins, and I look at the Pacome Dardier selection, I'm like, there was a couple of guys in that draft that are a lot more ready. And okay, maybe they believed in Pacome Dardier's upside long term, or maybe it was mainly the ability to take that discount, and they like Kolek and they got Kolek. But I think we need another shot creating wing, that can just help us out. And I do think Hart and Shamet are the best that we have right now in terms of creating their shot. And it is going to help everyone else out because they can seriously eat more minutes. And let's not forget, that could be another reason why McCall and OG look dog tired, right? They do look super tired. And if Josh Hart was healthy and playing and Landry Shamet was healthy and playing, how many minutes together would they combine? They would combine for at least 50 minutes, right? Right? So those 50 minutes that Hart and Landry would play together combined, okay, how many of those minutes are going to Diawara and McCullough? And how many more minutes are the other guys playing, in their absence? So I think that's that's something to also pay attention to, fam. So yeah, we need more Diawara and more McCullough too. Always a pleasure to chop it up with y'all. Great to have everyone come through. Ruben's in the house, says our offense is broken. Yeah, it doesn't look great when we're not getting stops. When you're constantly picking the ball out of the basket, you can't get downhill. You can't get momentum. Everything's just stuck in a half-court grind, fam. And when they're literally allowed to wrestle us, WWE style, you're not getting those foul calls. Look at the frustration on Cat's face. Brunson last night. Our guys are just getting frustrated, right? So the best way to break out of that is a big win in Detroit, and that'll give us some momentum heading back home against the Clippers, fam. Let's get ready to wrap this one up. So the Clippers are showing some fight, which is great. 63-71 heading into halftime. So it's it's less than double digits on their home arena. Let's hope the Celtics can get tired and the Clippers can make a little bit of a run and do us a favor tonight, because we need the Celtics to take some L's, fam. But yeah, peace up and health, happiness and blessings to everyone, man. Our Knicks will bounce back, but we've got some things to tweak and some things that we've got to clean up from the front office as well, right? How much longer is Yabusele going to be a New York Knick, or Pacome Dardier, or potentially somebody else, right? The Knicks have got some moves to make, right? And now is the perfect time for Leon Rose to cook something up and to really give this team a boost, fam. I'm talking a major boost. Remember that Derrick Rose trade in that first year with Thibodeau and Leon? Man, Derrick Rose came in here and he was basically the pseudo closer. He gave us a major boost, right? I'm talking that level. We need an impact player to come in and really help right now. let's see what they can do, right? We'll see you on the next one, everyone. Peace.